We are going to be continuing the story of Ivy today in chapter 2. Remember, she just ran away. Dad got a letter, but she didn't want to hear anything about it, and she's meeting her friend. Where was Araceli? Ivy paced beneath the pepper trees where they always met, the winter limbs now naked with balled fists. Icy sprinkles stung her face. She whispered, "Hurry." Araceli was her first best friend. It had been hard to make friends of any sort when she had lived so many places. Buttonwillow, Modesto, Selma, Shafter, and other towns whose names she'd long forgotten. All that had changed when they moved to Fresno. For the first time ever, Papa had worked in one place for a year. An entire year. She and Araceli had both arrived at La Colonia the same week. Even though Araceli was a year older in school, the two girls looked so much alike, with their black lashes, long brown braids, and wide smiles, that people thought they were sisters. They quickly discovered that they had even more in common. Araceli had lived all over Central California too, even in some of the same places as Ivy, but at different times. They both loved to read, play jacks, and could jump rope 100 times double dutch without missing. Ivy breathed into the harmonica, creating a lonely wail. "Ivy!" She whirled around. Araceli rushed toward her, wearing a purple crocheted hat pulled down over her ears. She kissed Ivy on the cheek, keeping one arm behind her back. "Sorry I am late. I had to go to the store for my mother." Ivy tried to sound happy. "New hat?" "My mother made it. And," she smiled and revealed what was behind her back, "I asked her to make a matching one for you." She held out an identical purple crocheted hat. Ivy pulled it on. "How do I look?" "The same as me," Araceli giggled. "Now no one can tell us apart." Ivy laughed too, but her happiness became all mixed up with her sadness, and she began to cry. "What's wrong?" I am leaving." Araceli's face crimped with disbelief. "No! When? To where?" "Soon, I think. Somewhere near Los Angeles." Ivy looked down. Brittle leaves scampered across her shoes, whispering their goodbyes. She kicked at the stragglers. Araceli hugged her. "Don't cry. We will always be friends. Besides, if not you, it would probably be me and my family leaving. My father says everyone moves from La Colonia sooner or later, if they want to get ahead in this world." Ivy sniffled and tried to smile. Why did it have to be sooner rather than later? "Let's promise to write to each other every week," said Araceli. "Twice a week. 3 times." Her eyes drooped. "You won't forget me, will you?" Ivy shook her head. "Never." Fat raindrops splattered the dirt as the sky opened. "Run!" yelled Araceli. Squealing, they darted beneath the eaves of a corner bungalow where they needed to go their separate ways. They faced each other and held hands, but Ivy could not make herself jump up and down or laugh like they usually did. Araceli leaned in and kissed Ivy's cheek. "See you tomorrow." Then she darted across the road to her home, opened the door, and stood on the threshold, backlit by the light inside. Ivy tried to etch the image into her mind. Her best friend, wearing a matching purple hat, waving and blowing kisses to her. She blew kisses in return and pretended they were not the beginning of goodbye. As she dashed back to her bungalow, the rain pelted her. Ivy slammed the door on the downpour. Her hands and feet ached, changing from ice cold to warm. She pulled off her hat and jacket and heard Papa talking to Mama in the kitchen. "What about Nando?" said Mama. "I'll write to him tonight," said Papa. "When this war is finished, he will return to a real home, a house. Finally, a house, Luz. We cannot dismiss this opportunity. I am sorry we must leave at once." Ivy frowned and stepped into the kitchen. "When?" Mama looked at Ivy, her eyes apologizing. "In the morning." Ivy stiffened. "The morning? But what about my friends and Miss Delgado?" Disappointment slapped her as the news sank in. She blurted her secret. "And the performance on the radio. I am playing a solo. It was a surprise for you." Papa rubbed both hands over his head. Ivy, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for our family. There will be other chances for you to perform, maybe at your new school. He held out his arms to her as if pleading for her to understand. Ivy's eyes smarted and she blinked back tears. She was sure if Fernando were here and he had a basketball game, Papa would wait until after to leave. As much as Ivy wanted to speak her mind, she held back. Mama would think it improper to use Fernando as an example when he was away fighting a war. And Papa was Papa. When he said it was time to leave, they left. He wasn't going to change his mind unless she thought of a practical reason. I need to tell Miss Delgado I can't perform the solo. She's counting on me, and Araceli thinks we're meeting tomorrow. Mama's eyes filled with regret, but her voice was firm. It cannot be helped. Guillermo and Bertina had to leave the farm. All of Bertina's brothers are at war, and her father took ill. They had to move to Texas to help her family. We cannot leave the property unattended much longer, so you understand the urgency. You can write Miss Delgado and Araceli notes, and we can drop them at the post office on our way out. Ivy whimpered. It's not the same as in person. Araceli is my best friend, and Miss Delgado is my favorite teacher, the best teacher I've ever had. I know, said Mama, putting an arm around Ivy. But there will be other teachers and other friends, and we will have a house and a yard where we can plant flowers and a garden. There is a washing machine. Can you imagine? We will not have to haul clothes across camp anymore. I will take over Bertina's job helping a neighbor with laundry. It is all arranged. And I will be in charge of 60 acres, said Papa. He held up the envelope. We are fortunate that Guillermo recommended me. Very fortunate. Ivy stared at Papa, feeling numb. Ivy, there is a possibility. This situation will be permanent, said Papa. It is what we've always wanted. You will go to a new school, a better school with fine teachers, and the weather cannot be compared. I promise you, everything will be better. I was going to play a solo. I've been practicing and practicing. Papa threw out his arms. Ivy, there are far more serious matters at hand than this indulgence of yours. Papa's words stabbed her. Why did he think so little of her harmonica playing, and why for once couldn't he change his mind? Ivy stared at the floor and bit her lip to keep from crying. In La Colonia, she'd finally belonged. To Araceli, to Miss Delgado, to her neighbors. None of them thought her frivolous or indulgent. Now all that mattering was being cast aside like rubbish on the road. And for what? Would this move really be different from the rest? Papa sighed. Ivy, do you expect us to stay here for 6 more days when there are trees to be watered and a house waiting for us and the chance at a permanent situation just so you can play a 2-minute song on the harmonica? You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of the Little Prince and the difference in matters of importance, right? He has his idea of matters of importance, and Ivy has her idea of a matter of importance. Her thoughts swirled. She knew how she wanted to answer, but then she remembered the promise she'd made to Fernando to be a good little soldier and help Mama and Papa while he was away. Did that mean doing anything to make Mama and Papa happy, even if it made her unhappy? No, she whispered. Mama and I need to talk to my bosses and say some goodbyes. We'll be back in 1 hour to pack our things. He patted her shoulder before they left. Ivy went to the bedroom she had shared with Fernando before he left. Several empty boxes already sat on one bed. Her suitcase was lying open on the other. She flung clothes at it. At the end of next week, Christmas vacation started. Other parents waited until their children were out of school, but not Papa. They had to leave at once. Ivy sank to her bed, letting the tears come. Better. Papa was always looking for a place called Better. Once, this place, Fresno, had been better. Now it was nothing more than the last place she'd lived. She knew how it would be after they left. For a few days, the news would burn on everyone's lips like the oil of Serrano chilies. Then in a few weeks, the memory of Ivy Maria Lopez would fade away as if she had never lived there before, as if she'd never belonged somewhere for an entire year. Okay, so now our questions today are, why does Ivy's family have to move so soon? Okay, because he's saying we have to move tomorrow. So why do they have to move tomorrow? And then this quote, Papa was always looking for a place called better. What does this statement tell us about Ivy's family? Okay, Papa was always looking for a place called better. What does this statement tell us about them? So, do they have everything they want yet? What do you think about maybe the type of job he has right now compared to the type of job he thinks he's going to have? Why are they moving so much? And then she makes a statement that Papa is always looking for better. You know what phrase comes to mind? The grass is always greener on the other side, right? We think that way. We think, well, we don't have this here, but maybe when we move here, we can have this. And the word for them right now is transient. Transient means that they move a lot and they're not one place permanently for a long time. And then the next question at the bottom here says, what impact did Miss Delgado have on Ivy? So what impact did she have? And she said she belonged to Araceli, but she also felt like she belonged to Miss Delgado. And she mentions her, let me go back, right here at the top of the page. She starts on the previous page, but was her favorite teacher, the best teacher that she had ever had. So think about what we know about her and what she encouraged in Ivy that made her so good. Okay, we're gonna. I hope you're enjoying this this story inside this larger story, and we will read some more tomorrow.